Welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm Megan Wood with Becker's Healthcare. We will begin today's webinar with a presentation and we'll have time at the end of the hour for a question and answer session. You can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar by typing them into your control panel in the space labeled Enter a Question for Staff and clicking Send. We are looking forward to hearing your questions. Additionally, in about a week following the webinar, we will be sending you a copy of the presentation to the email you used to register. At this time, it is now my pleasure to start today's webinar by introducing our presenters. Tanya Andriatis is Penn Medicine's Associate Chief Marketing Officer, focusing on digital strategy and customer analytics. She leads a team of technical developers, project managers, content strategists, and experienced designers. Tanya has led healthcare marketing teams for over 15 years. She is proficient in leveraging new technology and developing and implementing digital website, mobile, video, social, CRM, marketing automation, intranet, and portal communication strategies. In previous roles, Tanya worked as a change agent introducing SEO, paid search, social media, and mobile approaches to solidify brand positioning and more effectively connect with patients and consumers. Amy Zylstra is Associate Executive Director, Contact Center at Penn Medicine. She received an MBA in Health Administration from Temple University, a BS in Business Administration from Aquinas College, and RN from Grand Rapids Community College. Penn Medicine's contact center employs 105 employees with 2.1 million annual calls and web requests within the consumer, physician, referral, and corporate operator programs. Tanya, I'll now turn the floor over to you.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and hello everybody. Looking forward to today's webinar. Thank you for joining. Really quickly, for some context, Penn Medicine is an academic medical center based in Philadelphia, and I'm going to go into some context before we get into our strategy around personalized communications and how we use the contact center to deliver those communications. I thought it would be helpful to just focus a little bit on our strategy and how we got to where we are today. So Penn Medicine, for the last 5 or 6 years, has been focused on what we call a precision marketing strategy. And the idea here is that strategy around brand, business growth, and engagement drives our need for data and the kind of data that we need to consume, which then influences the technology that we need. The technology then gives us insights, and then those insights inform the strategy. And it's sort of this never-ending loop of input and output. We have moved to CRM in our contact center, and we started our CRM journey with the idea that CRM would lead to better customer insights, an understanding of the effectiveness of marketing tactics, campaigns, and also at a very detailed level how tactics and the dollars that we're putting toward those tactics are performing. And then efficiency, to the same point about cost and resource efficiency, really being able to trigger communications, be able to look at data more quickly, have access to data more quickly, make sure that we're pulling in the right people at the lowest possible cost, and then looking at ROI. And CRM has done all of these things for us. And all of these categories are also very applicable to the call center space. Moving into sort of our technology journey, focusing really on, when we integrated contact center, the contact center integration happened with our CRM product, quite a bit of time, several years after our initial CRM implementation and other technology implementations. And bringing it into the mix was really game-changing for us. We are today, that we implemented, and we're still really realizing the benefits of CRM in the contact center environment. We've expanded our health system quite a bit in the last few years, and so we're extending this technology out to the new hospitals that have joined Penn. And we're upgrading the system to the latest platform and sort of always in this constant optimization state. So optimized, back when in 2015, and again, we're optimizing now. And I think that's really been a theme for us. And lastly, in terms of the context here, what you're looking at is a representation of Penn Medicine's marketing technology stack. And you have all these different categories, again, in this infinity loop kind of process where you have, we're analyzing and reporting on data, researching, gathering insights, creating and managing content, then executing and putting content out into the universe. And as you can see, the eVariant Salesforce platform is really a piece of many stages of this. So it's coming in at the analyze and report stage, also at the research stage, and the execute and engage stage. Now I'm going to turn this over to Amy Zelstra, who's going to tell you a little bit about our contact center vision and how we got to where we are today.
Hello, everyone. We started with a vision, and to make that vision more real, we turned it into a video. The video was about ultimate connectedness, where our CRM could help connect marketing interactions to clinical interactions and also provide our patients and referring physicians with information relevant to their individual healthcare journey stage. We found that CRM can help patients feel like we truly know them and we can anticipate their needs. This enhanced knowledge level could facilitate compliance to patient treatment plans, medications, or activities, and also can offer us in-depth insights to support both an exceptional and personalized patient experience and to report on and monitor trends. Although we have not been able to realize this full vision as of yet, we have come to realize the significance of the phone interaction and the role of our customer service agents.
So coming back to Tanya again, I think we were hoping to be able to show the video. It doesn't really work in this format, but the idea of a video was something that really, to Amy's point, helped us crystallize the vision and put some real use cases in front of people so they could get their head around what are we talking about. But I'm going to show you now some real things that happened as a result of integrating CRM and how CRM in the contact center was able to connect to our digital activity and our precision marketing strategy. So what you're looking at is a landing page for a cancer campaign. And the call to action here is talk to somebody who can help you. And this button today leads to a web form. And before I show you that web form, I just want to make the point that in a future state, and something we're working on testing, that this button from a mobile phone would actually connect to an outbound call right away. And it could potentially ask someone when they would like to have a call back in a very quick, oriented web form, and then place a call in the queue of the contact center agent so that an outbound call would be automatically placed. Those are two things that are in the works right now. But what happens today is someone will push a button like this on a landing page. Then they'll get to a landing page form. They'll complete the form, and on the form they're asked, what would you like to discuss on the call today? That data comes through automatically to a contact center screen that an agent can see. And so before they place that outbound call back to the person, they can see that this person inquired what campaign they were inquiring about and that they were interested in discussing a second opinion. This, by the way, is a trend that we saw happening with many of our cancer campaigns that really helped us to influence our content development as well, because we were finding that people were more and more looking for second opinion types of content and wanting to talk to people about the process, and that through this insights we were able to gather through this process, we were able to really beef up our website content as well. But this allows for a personalized experience because the contact center agent is able to really address the need right away because they know why the person was calling and what they want to discuss. Another thing that's of a similar nature is something we refer to as whisper campaigns, and that simply means that we have dedicated phone numbers for particular campaigns, sometimes even for particular tactics of a campaign. And those phone numbers, before the number is dialed and connects to the agent, a whisper will happen in the call center representative's ear that essentially says what the name of the campaign is. Could say something like heart and vascular or joint replacement. And that allows for the agents to know before the call is connected, again, what are they calling in response to and what are they going to want to talk about. And what we've really found is, obviously, this provides that personalized level of experience for the person calling, but it also is a huge, anxiety reducer for the representative who are taking the calls because they feel like a sense of relief. They know what to expect. They know how they can help the person before they even connect to the call. And here you're looking at just a sampling. This is one of the dashboards that we look at in our contact center. And in this particular view, you can see all of the different digital campaign phone lines that we have where these kinds of whispers are happening and agents are able to address head on what people want to talk about. We also let me go back there. We also capture things like interest, and we can see the web form completions by service line or service area. So another piece of this personalized communications through the contact center that I think is really somewhat of a low-hanging fruit, but provides a really remarkable experience is being able to trigger emails out based on certain flags. So in this case, when we have someone who calls to schedule an appointment and they don't actually end up scheduling an appointment or coming in, and we can see that there's been no transaction happening in our EMR, we have a trigger-based campaign module that will send out emails. And we tend to look at it like with, for instance, areas like neurosurgery or cancer, that there's, it's something that you want to follow up on pretty immediately. With primary care, orthopedics, other things that are less imminent, we want to follow up within at least 2 weeks. And then campaigns that might be running or information that people might be accessing on our website before they fill out a web form that related to things like neuro or rheumatology where access is lower or, again, might be non-emergent. We just want to make sure that we follow up, sometimes within 30 or 60 days. But we've seen conversions happen from this email where people actually end up saying, oh, thank you for sending the email, and end up scheduling their appointment. So moving on from that piece of it, I'm going to talk now about how CRM, almost immediately after it became a part of our marketing technology stack, it was able to enable reporting on marketing impact. And the contact center piece brought the contact center view into this. Showing you this just as something we were proud of at Penn Medicine, and we recently celebrated over 10,000 plus patients that were attributed directly from digital campaigns. Most of these digital campaigns lead people to forms again, and then outbound calls are placed back to them. And the results that we see from this body of 10,000 plus patients really came, 30,000 plus leads came in, 53 of which requested to be contacted. And interestingly, about 41% of those people originated from a Google paid ad. We were able to attribute over 10,000 patients, 38% of which were new to the service that they were inquiring about or new to Penn Medicine, and 11% outside of our regional market. And then our overarching ROI for all of the campaigns was 6-to-1, which was a 34% improvement over past studies that we've done. And then the highest ROI for us is bariatrics, which I think is pretty common. So that kind of reporting is enabled by, the ability for us to really see all of the web forms that are mapped into our CRM. Another way to look at this, and again, another form example, is one for a heart campaign. So we have these forms that people fill out. They, in this case, request to schedule an appointment. Then you can see here is a screen that the contact center representative uses where the campaign name is coming through. They can see that. They have an inquiry queue, so they have all the people here that have responded to this campaign, and that's how they call out to those people. This is the activity module within the system that shows, okay, I'm providing a physician referral, and this person is connected to the Heart and Vascular campaign, which connects the data on the back end and then leads us to have these really comprehensive dashboards and comprehensive reporting. This particular dashboard, we're looking at something across the top that we were never able to see before we were integrating CRM into the contact center. You can see a sample of digital leads that came in at a given time and how many of those came in from the contact center. So the digital lead number and the contact center lead number would be people who filled out a form and then contact center people called them back, or people who called a campaign phone number or other phone number specific to that particular promotion or campaign and call directly without filling out a form. And it's still quite a bit of people. And then you can see the nature of those calls and leads right here in one view, and also where they're coming from. Are they coming directly from a campaign landing page, or are they coming from our website with a page of similar content? Across the bottom, you can see the activity type, whether it's an appointment, information request. There are several activity types. You can see whether it's a contact center or a form inquiry, again, another view of that. What kind of call to action was used, and what kind of phone line was used. So I'm going to kind of give you a quick case study here that is actually a really funny and fun one that we did, but I think it really illustrates the point of how you can use these things with marketing to really be able to see what is effective and what is not. And in this particular case, it was something that we could really tease out and look at. We started marketing urinary incontinence, and we had a very big social push. And at one point in time, we were realizing that we weren't getting a lot of people completing forms online for urinary incontinence. So we started running this social campaign. Again, I wish I could show you this video. It's pretty funny, but it's also very short, and it's really just this little animated character who is struggling to hold it in. And the first 2 weeks of launching this on Facebook, it had, about 12,000 plus views. Everybody completed the video, which isn't quite a surprise because it was a very short video. We had 5 guide downloads, but really I think the most important point was we had 600 plus calls, and this was really just the beginning, and we were able to see, very clearly that these social ads were leading to phone calls. The next screen is showing more sort of fun things. We made up a holiday, National Kegel Exercise Day, another post about what on earth is urogynecology. The content itself isn't what's important here. It's really these results that we were able to see after with this closed loop reporting. So we were able to show overall across time that there's a 10% increase in call volume when a campaign for urogynecology was in market. And the big jumps, and you can see them here, were related to when we had social media and the market social media posts. In totality, the campaign had about 300 plus digital inquiries, but over 2,000 call inquiries. So really, we were able to learn that this audience is much more, the call was much more comfortable with that than filling out a form. And then again, we're able to see how many requested an appointment, how many were new, and ultimately how many people led to a patient encounter, to a billable patient encounter. And in this case, it was 73. So now I'm going to switch it over to Amy again, and she's going to talk to you about how CRM and the contact center is also something that really enabled more efficiency.
We decided to build an interface between our CRM and a via telephony platform. We're looking at the first screen that pops when a call is presented to an agent. The blue box on the left shows the caller, who today is Tanya Test. It indicates what number she called in on, her cell phone, and then what number she dialed. And the small red box is clicked when an agent is ready to finish a call. The blue box next to it is used when an agent is putting a caller on hold. The green box retrieves that caller from being on hold. The third blue box is where we can conference to a third party. So if a patient is requesting an appointment and we've decided to connect over to a scheduler, we can use that button to connect. At first, only the agent and the scheduler is on the line. We warm transfer all of our patients over to schedulers when they are interested in scheduling an appointment. So we would provide initial demographic information, what the reason the patient wants to be seen for, any physicians we've already discussed, and then by hitting the gray phone line above these small boxes, that brings the caller onto the call. And then the final blue box is where the agent would exit and just the patient and scheduler would be talking. That blue patient search box that you see is highlighted when a patient is indicated in the middle of the screen. And the white provider search box would take you to our physician search criteria that we'll be looking at in a minute, where we can search for both internal and external physicians. We can update demographic information right here on this screen, and if we've already advanced to the next screen and then find we need to update demographic information, we can do it on the expanded patient demographic screen as well. If there were more than one Tanya test associated with this phone number, they both would show in the middle. And if there are any other household members that are associated with a Tanya test, they would also populate with more information on the next screen. So as you can see, the majority of the information points are automatically presented and populated to our agents, which reduces time spent on the call and increases efficiency. After clicking on Tanya Test, we would come to this screen. This is an expanded view of our demographics. The edit button at the top would allow us to update any information, and each field that you see here has the capacity to be updated. This is also the screen where if a caller wanted to opt out of any communication with Penn Medicine, that can be done on this screen as well. So we're looking at, again, Tanya's name, phone number, email, date of birth, gender, age. The household that you see on the left side is a hyperlink that would take us to all members in Tanya's family, and all demographics would be displayed when we would click on that hyperlink. The number of children below that would show how many children are in a household. That's just a number. And then program membership would show any memberships we have this caller attached to. So in this case, Tanya is a member of our Claim Watchers group. And then I happen to be the caregiver today for Tanya, so I'm listed as her caregiver. This could be a caregiver or someone who has power of attorney for the caller. And then on the right side, we show a place for contact center notes. So this is a free text field where we can put things in like, this patient is hard of hearing, we need to talk a little bit louder. Below that is if the caller were a member of any of our patient signature services programs, which are a variety of development programs that we also work closely with. And then if there is a primary care physician identified in our Epic, they would also show for the caller. The MRN is also populated from our Epic scheduling software. When we transfer callers over to schedulers and complete that warm transfer process, schedulers are always interested in the MRN number, so we're able to give that to them. So this screen provides multiple data points to inform a call center agent and be familiar with the person that they are speaking with. The next screen is the provider search screen that we use to assist a patient in navigating our health system to find an appropriate physician for their healthcare needs. Again, we can search for internal or external physicians to our health system. Every field you see here is searchable, so it allows for a very personalized search for a caller. We can populate all of these fields or just a couple of them. And with the new engagement center, we will be able to see this information. The new engagement center will be linked to our Epic, and we will be able to see physician availability and appointment availability for a particular physician that we've searched for. CRM search capability allows a call center agent to quickly match a physician to our caller's unique interests and needs. And the next screen, we've pulled up an individual physician's profile. So we're looking at some information about this physician, name, phone numbers, departments, addresses, email, what employment type or affiliation. Up on the upper right-hand corner, the Restart module, if we have pulled up this physician but then want to search for another physician, that takes us back to the search criteria we just looked at, and then the Cancel module actually exits out of the search module altogether. This physician has one location listed under the green number 1 box. If this physician practiced out of more locations, they would all be listed there. And if we kept scrolling down, if we had the capability to continue to scroll down in this physician profile, we would also see the clinical interests, any diagnoses or symptoms that this physician treats for, programs affiliated with the physician, their education, where they went to medical school, did residencies, fellowships, and then any certifications. So conversations are very tailored to how much information a caller is interested in receiving. We have everything at our fingertips, and we really tailor the conversation to what the caller is asking about. And this screen, we're going to look at how an agent knows that a caller may have been identified for a specific campaign tactic, and then how we offer that information. The box at the top with word campaign in it is one of 6 activity modules that are presented to agents when they begin a call. So in this situation, the number 1 in the red box lets an agent know that there's an embedded campaign tactic for this specific caller. And once that tactic is shared with the caller, then the number 1 switches over to the green box and can count up from there depending on how many campaign tactics we talk about with a patient. This particular one is an offer to sign up for our health and wellness newsletter. Under the campaign detail that you see on the left, this would indicate if there were more than one campaign embedded for this caller. And where you see in blue the value added health and wellness, that actually, if we click on that, that brings up the asset, the actual asset that was provided to the patient and they may be looking at while we're talking to them. And then at the bottom, we have various talking points about the newsletter or about the campaign that we can discuss, or answers to questions that a caller may ask. And then at the bottom, the log campaign response, this blue box. This is where we would click when we're finished talking about the campaign. This actually attaches the campaign to the patient's record and history. And clicking this box also removes the campaign from this patient so that the next agent that may speak with this caller, they'll know that the campaign's already been offered and not to repeat the information. And next, we're looking at one of our dashboards. Our Marketing Data and Analytics division has utilized Tableau to create dashboards from our CRM. Management uses these dashboards to carefully monitor operations and manage efficiency. All of this data is data that we've plugged in. It's not real data. But on the left, we're looking at a dashboard that focuses on call volume over a 3-year period of time. We're looking at the number of calls that have come in and then appointments from those calls. The 3 circles indicate whether a caller specified a physician when they called in. Did they have a physician's name that was known to them, or were they looking for help from us to navigate to find an appropriate physician? Call type is whether the call was an inbound or outbound call. Typically, our outbound calls are in response to a web form received. Inquiry origin looks at whether the call was an actual call or from a web form. And then the web form type breaks out whether the web forms were our general web form or a campaign-specific web form. And a couple EKG type looking lines below that also depict in a visual way the call volume and web form volume. And then below that, we're looking at breakdown by specialty. For the blue lines are calls, and again, the gray web forms. And then we can break down the volume per specific provider as well. And then on the right, we're looking at a dashboard that's been geared more toward our staff performance as an aggregate group. It's a 6-month picture. We're looking at calls and transactions. We're always wanting our transactions to be higher than our calls because there's typically more than one thing to document in a call that we've discussed with a patient. Average number of calls per a customer service representative or our agents, an average length of call, breaks down call volume and web form volume in a couple different ways. And then we have the colored lines are looking at all the different areas within the health system that utilize CRM at this point. And it's a rolling 4-week snapshot of volume and who's using CRM. And then we've broken down our staff by customer service representative and RN at the bottom. And again, calls and web forms that they have processed. And then the next dashboard, we're zeroing in on one specific agent. Our agents are very motivated by being able to look at their own productivity levels. This is looking at Jessica, how many calls she has facilitated, and again, the number of transactions that she's documented for each of those calls. Right now, she's a little over 1 transaction per call. This agent was in our class registration queue, our referring physician queue, and all of our campaign queues. Breaking down her inquiry origin, her web forms and calls processed, call type, inbound and outbound calls, and then the different phone lines that she was in a skill set for. And then the bottom graph actually overlays her volumes with her average length of call, which is pulled from our Avaya telephony platform.
And that the ability for management to access some of this reporting is just remarkable for us. It leads to efficiency. It leads to guidance to give to the staff about how to better service these calls and callers. And one of the things that we're really moving toward is, not as much emphasis on length of call and more emphasis on the quality or the value of the call, which is a good segue into the next section of this. If you recall, earlier in the presentation, we talked about this video we created that was really about connecting the dots on a patient experience from the time they come in from a marketing campaign to when they're seen by their doctor, what their treatment plan is, and then their adherence to that plan and beyond. Now, I think Amy mentioned that vision has been very difficult to achieve, but we've made significant progress towards it, and we've learned a lot along the way about what we can do. Sometimes it's data, sometimes it's the way the system is structured that gets in the way. I just want to show you this to give you context into the way that our call centers at Penn are structured today. So currently there are multiple entry points into the system, and all of the different call centers are not sharing data or sharing any sort of standards or process. The contact center is largely focused on marketing and physician referral activities, where our access center is scheduling. For the most part, we have a centralized scheduling function, but there are departments that are still doing scheduling on their own, and also locations throughout the health system that are scheduling on their own. Now, while the contact center has been really invested in working towards technology integration and integration with all different kinds of marketing tactics to understand how they impact behavior, our access center has been really working on streamlining scheduling and making sure that there's more centralized scheduling and the ability to be able to report on calls and activity in a more streamlined way. So these two efforts were working in parallel, and we're getting closer and closer to a future state which looks more like this, where the contact center, staying as a marketing call center, works much more closely and efficiently and streamlines handoffs in a much better manner with our access center, who again does most of our scheduling. And we're looking at this relationship in a much different way now, and part of it is sharing data, sharing quality assurance process to make sure standards across all the centers are the same level of standards, and then also sharing our CRM system so that scheduling agents have access into the same information about our patients, our callers, as we do at the contact center. This graph is an example of how we have in marketing worked closely with clinical operations. So in the previous slide, we were talking mostly about call centers, but we also have some, I would call them pilots, I guess, where we're having digital campaigns leading directly to care coordinators that are sitting within a particular area of the, whether it's orthopedics or spine. And this graph just shows how all of that stuff flows. So in a lot of cases, there'll be some sort of campaign tactics like an email, a web form is submitted from that campaign tactic, which populates into our CRM. Now at that point, instead of a call center rep being able to place an outbound call, we actually have care coordinators that are logging into the CRM, and they have a similar queue as the contact center does. They're calling back these leads and outbound calls similar to the way that the contact center does. And then depending on what happens, they have different workflows. So if they're able to answer the call, then they work through scheduling an appointment. If they don't schedule an appointment, there's a different workflow, et cetera. And so mapping out some of these processes has been really successful for us in exploring different models about how CRM can be extended into the organization. We really have a lot of work around physician issue management as well that's been going on, and I'm going to turn this piece over to Amy to discuss.
The flow you see here, we've built for our marketing physician liaisons that are traveling and speaking with referring physicians, but it's really a flow that could be used for any departments to report issues in, or leadership to report issues to be managed. So here, a physician liaison at the left would go into a specific physician profile that they may have visited or had contact with, and click on that new issue that's circled in yellow. That would bring up the next form for the liaison to populate, and they're really describing what the issue is and what help they need. The fields highlighted in red are required. Once they hit save, then we move over to the third section. That actually creates an inquiry into Salesforce, which flows into a call center agent's queue. By clicking on that inquiry number, it opens up the inquiry and it brings the agent directly to the physician module where the interaction was initiated, and they can work the issue from there. And the next flow that we've built out is communication between our contact center and our Penn Global Medicine area. So this is a call flow that there's a lot of back and forth between these two departments working on specific patient cases, and we designed a flow that would work well for multiple handoffs. So about 64% of our international callers are introduced through the contact center, either from a phone call or a web form. And the interactions are tagged as a Penn Global Medicine contact, and they are handed off to the PGM case manager. And there's an email on the right that's also provided to that person. So they have an email introducing the case, and they can open a link which opens up the case and the information embedded. And these cases can be passed back and forth as different pieces of the call are worked on. So this really streamlines process and management of information for these two specific departments.
Thank you, Amy. And I just want to emphasize that all of this work that we've been doing with operations has really connected, not to the ultimate level that we would like, but connected the marketing activity to the patient experience and helped create efficiencies for the people in clinical operations to really manage workflows. The number of folks that are accessing and using our platform is growing every day, and we've really had more and more use cases that are building for either clinicians, case managers, or schedulers to be able to access the system and use it for their work as well. So in closing, I think what we've learned at Penn Medicine is that there's a lot that we can do in the contact center, which is one of the most personal experiences in a very personal business. We thought of them originally, I think, as even upsells or value adds, but where we've landed now is that really there are small acts of kindness that can happen on every phone call or every personal interaction. Sometimes it's live chat. And CRM is a tool that can help you to operationalize really these small acts of kindness and track the success of them in a way that you can script people and you can track, how often are these things being embedded into the process of the call, and how often are our reps doing this, and what is the experience of the caller because of it. Really, we created another video, and this video, instead of setting the ultimate vision of where we want to go, was really more for the purposes of training and helping contact center representatives get their head around the power that they have, that the more they're able to give more than the caller expects, or to surprise them with excellent service, the higher the bar will be raised for all of us in healthcare, but the more that those patients will feel that we've serviced them and really feel loyal to Penn Medicine. And we have so much work to do before we reach the ultimate state of utopia, where the CRM can help us to offer increased value to every patient at every stage of their healthcare journey. We really have a lot to do to leverage the system we have, but in the meantime, there are things that are easy to act on, and we're trying to make sure that we hardwire it and embed it into our process every day. And these kinds of things include registration for the patient portal. We have a flag in the system that will tell a rep whether someone's registered or not, and if they're not registered, they can offer that registration and guide the caller through it. Similar for text-based reminders for appointments, where people can opt in to receiving text-based appointment reminders and really understand the value and how that can help them. We're talking more and more about location-based amenity information, which can be saved in a CRM. And so if someone is looking for a particular location or wanting to schedule at a particular location, you can do things like say, okay, you have a morning appointment. Let me tell you where the coffee shop is. Or you're coming into a place that's very busy. Let me explain to you how you can park and what that process is. And there's all other kinds of amenity-based information that we can take advantage of and script the contact center representatives with. We've been offering now for a long time our health and wellness newsletter, which has really valuable content for people, and we can personalize that content so that it's relevant to their own healthcare needs. And then something as simple as sending email summaries of call activities. Often on our calls, we have multiple referrals are given, multiple needs are met. The conversation can go in multiple directions, and the people who are calling are really in need of help, and sometimes to the point of sort of flustered. And this kind of communication can help them remember, what did we talk about, give links to the physician profiles that were discussed, or any information like that. And we can also send them follow-up information to be supportive of whatever condition they have, or whatever condition they were seeking care for information about. For example, how to manage asthma. Or maybe if you know that you have a patient who has asthma and it's allergy season, you might offer them content around how to manage asthma during allergy season. So the bottom line is we have become huge believers that offering patients more than they expect and not just giving them what they ask for will leave really lasting impressions, will increase brand loyalty, and that will ultimately benefit all of us. And then on the sort of business side of things, we know that making data collection a part of the job of that contact center rep, and insight gathering a part of their mentality of what they're there to do, will lead us to be able to capture more and more information about our callers that can then lead to even more personalized and better experiences in the future. So that wraps up our webinar for today, and I think we can take questions now.
Thank you, Tanya and Amy, for that fantastic presentation. We will now begin today's question and answer session. Please submit any questions you have by typing them into your control panel in a space labeled "Enter a question for staff" and clicking send. We will try to get through as many questions as we have time for. All right, the first question is, when you implemented CRM into your contact center, what were some of your early wins?
Great question. Some of our early wins were definitely related to our ability to report on marketing activity and to connect digital campaign activity specifically to phone calls and to see what was effective, what was not, and to be able to really use that information to optimize our process.
We also saw an immediate reduction in the length of call. This is a very automated way of documenting calls. Most of the documentation are drop-down lists or clicks, so we saw a reduction in our average length of call for our agents.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And what would you say were your biggest challenges?
Maybe one of our biggest challenges was building the dashboards quickly enough. So many of our marketing teams were interested in the attribution data and just keeping up with the requests for the dashboards so that they could look at the information and analyze it.
Yes, I would say for sure, the more you have to offer in the data and analytics space, the more requests that you will get, and that did become a challenge. I think it was also, there's a whole change management behind this, and it's really also a philosophy change. And so you can't, at least in my experience, underestimate the people and process part of this. And I think earlier on we underestimated and thought, okay, we're going to get a CRM system. It's going to solve all these problems. We're going to get really personal and relevant, and maybe underestimated the people part. But we're getting better and better at that today.
That's helpful to understand. Thank you. And what is the next big thing that you are working on?
We just implemented live chat, and we have it on a couple different pages of our website, but we're looking to expand the pages, our web pages that we place live chat. And we're also looking at integrating more Avaya technology into the CRM for some options where a caller may be able to just populate their name and number on a website or a web page, and Avaya would place an outbound call back to them. We're looking at the technology where a caller could do that when they call in, and instead of waiting in queue, that we would place the call back to them. So integrating some Avaya features into the CRM.
I would say also trying to pull in more insights. One of the screens that we showed was about scheduling data being available in the CRM, so you could actually get purview into physician schedules. In the past, we've had those processes be separate, where you would refer a physician and then later have to find out that physician's availability. And now we're working really closely, again, with operations and through this optimization process and upgrade of our system to get direct access readable into the schedules so that we can actually use scheduling and availability as a search criteria. Looking at things like, for patients who are calling, how do they have a cancellation rate, that would help us sort of understand, like, are they canceling, 1 out of 4 of their appointments? Maybe that's an opportunity to dig in and find out why, or an opportunity to alert the practice or the scheduler that this is a risk. Definitely looking at data points like, do they have a PCP? And if they don't, how can we make sure that we offer primary care services at Penn? And another one that I'm thinking a lot about is just really simple, actually, but collecting work address and work information from our callers so that we can offer convenient solutions to them closer to their work. We often think about where they live, and we are proactive in sending, saying, hey, we know that your primary care physician is retiring. Maybe you'd like to see this other physician. But we could also offer those kinds of solutions close to where they work if we start collecting information like that. So I think that's a good handful of things that are on our plates. And there's so much.
It's really interesting. Thank you for sharing. The next question is, have your pilots with clinical operations been successful?
I think that's a good question. The pilots with clinical operations have been really great. I think they've allowed us to understand the way that sort of operations teams think of the world, and operations teams are thinking more about how marketing people think of the world, and we're really able to bridge that gap. We've had a lot of success in using the CRM for people who are calling back for return appointments, where the schedulers in that, we call it a queue, but in that queue will take calls for return appointments and use the CRM system to navigate, because those callers could be calling for, you know, anything. And Epic, we were on Epic, but any EMR system makes it pretty challenging to search by the criteria that the patient will give you, for instance, location or credentials. So our scheduling center is now using CRM to be able to service those calls better, and I think that's been a big success. And also we've had success in the model where we're having clinical care coordinators take calls, because it becomes almost like a case management approach at that point, where they're really able to get more and more information clinically about the callers and help, you know, get them to the next point. Anything to add?
Excellent. Thank you for that response. This next question is, how did the staff adapt to using the new technology?
You can take that one.
Quite well. As Tanya mentioned, there definitely is a learning curve, and we're expecting a learning curve when we implement the new engagement center as well. But this software was much easier to document in, and the call flow really follows the normal pattern of how a conversation would take place. So that actually made it easier for our agents to use our current platform, and we're in the process of designing the engagement center so that it will even be easier for the agents. So it really, they've adapted well, because they have more information at their fingertips. It's easier to find the information, easier to flow through the steps of a call. They enjoy it.
And thank you. And this audience member wants to know if you have noticed that the whisper can be a distraction to the agent.
No, I would say not. Agents like it. It is very quick and short. The caller doesn't hear the whisper. It's something that, as right before the call is presented, the whisper is given to the agent, and we keep them very short. So it's not a long message. It may just be, you know, orthopedics elbow, or, you know, just one or two words, 1, 2, or 3 words to help the agent with what type of call is coming in, or what campaign the caller responded to.
Thank you for that insight. Another audience member asks, is the contact center appointment request metrics indicated by what an agent logs in CRM, or do you have someone listening to these calls to discern the call type and the outcome?
We do. I can take that one. Yeah, so I think this, I hope I'm answering this the right way, but it's 2-part. A call will come in, and then the agent will log why the person is calling. So if the person is saying, I'm calling for an appointment request, that is one of the options. If they're calling for just information or for a referral to many physicians, they will log that activity. Then on the back end, we're connected to our EMR. So we actually pull in data from the EMR and see what actually happened and who the patient actually ended up seeing, and sort of all the downstream activity that happens from a call. So we report on both the intention of the call and why, from a CSR, customer service representative perspective, why that person called, and then also on what actually happened according to our EMR records.
Thank you for clarifying that. Another audience member asks, what are the major technology components or vendors that make this possible?
I'm going to just click back to our marketing technology slide, if I can get there quickly. There we go. So we have quite a few, and I think the question was about what are the technology vendors that make more focus on this contact center work possible. Really, eVariant's platform, which is based on Salesforce technology, is at the core of a lot of this. We also have a marketing data mart where we use that to reconcile a lot of like big data, including Google Analytics and call center data, because call center data, with the amount of calls we get, is a huge data set. So we're able to, I guess we call it data wrangling. We're able to use a separate source to really manage that data. But eVariant Salesforce platform is a huge piece of that puzzle. And then our visualization tool that you've seen some graphs is Tableau. So we extract data from the CRM platform and from our data mart to be able to create those Tableau graphs. And all of that is automated. So we have a system that essentially ports data from those systems into Tableau for our dashboards.
Great, thank you. And what is the size of your contact center team? Do they all handle phone calls and web forms, or are they divided between these functions?
We have about 45 people in the call center and in the contact center, and we cross-train many of the functions and programs that we talked about. It's not 100%, not 100% of people do calls and web forms, but we try and cross-train as much as possible, just so we always have coverage and backup.
Excellent, that's interesting. And what would you say is the typical background for your call center reps?
We look for healthcare experience, call center experience, and also sales experience.
Thank you for clarifying that. This audience member is curious, what groups of stakeholders did you gather initial requirements from?
Well, that's a big question, I think, because the system is so big and complex. So if the question is around, who did we gather requirements from for CRM, our implementation of CRM and most of the systems you see on our marketing technology stack were really very directly to serve marketing purposes. But as we started to expand into different areas of the health system, we're really, actively looking for input on requirements for how we can use the CRM in other use cases. One example was what we talked about in terms of our schedulers. We got a lot of input about that, and we're going to continue to get input on how the system can work for them. But also in the clinical care models where we have coordinators, they're letting us know how the system works and how it can be adapted to meet their needs. And honestly, I just had another one pop up today, like, can we use, the eVariant Salesforce platform to do X, Y, and Z? So we have different use cases popping up, and I would say every use case has its own set of stakeholders, just depending on who's leading a particular area or what the business objective is.
It's very interesting, thank you. And it looks like we have time for one more question. This audience member asks, where are the physician profiles housed in the CRM?
Let me take that one too. This is, I think, mostly a data question. So we have, I'm not sure how common this is, but marketing at Penn Medicine manages the source of truth data for Penn Medicine physicians, meaning any physician on any hospital's medical staff at Penn Medicine is managed by the marketing team. We have a database that holds all of that information, and that database feeds the CRM. So the information on our website, the information that the contact center representatives use, and the information that we push out to many channels, including we have a physician app, for instance, and we have other what we call sort of flavors of physician directories. It's all one single data source.
Great, thank you so much for clarifying that. That is all the time we have for today. I want to thank Tanya and Amy for their excellent presentation and eVariant for sponsoring today's webinar. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to having you join us for future webinars.
Thank you.